is Justin Badger and I grew up in Fremont, California.
And my name is Stephanie Dodd and I grew up in Fremont, Nebraska. We are the Fremonts.
And we just got back from an epic tour through Tajikistan with the U.S. State Department.
It totally sounds like we are making that up.
I know, and that's why we made this little video, to prove to you all that we actually went on the trip and to share all the awesome stuff that we saw while in Central Asia. And if you like the video, you can go ahead and tip us on Venmo at the Fremonts, and we will send your money along to an awesome nonprofit we learned about on the trip called Spirit of America. They're currently raising funds in support of Ukraine. If you want to learn more, here is a link. So, you may be wondering, where in the world is Tajikistan? Tajikistan is in the heart of Central Asia, with Kyrgyzstan to the north, China to the east, Afghanistan to the south, and Uzbekistan to the west. The capital of Tajikistan is Dushanbe, which happens to be the sister city of Boulder, Colorado.
And it's that connection between Dushanbe and Boulder that brought us to Tajikistan. Although we currently call it the Berkshires home, we lived in Boulder for 6 wonderful years. We built our band there, we wrote a ton of music there, and we still work our full-time day jobs remotely out of Boulder. So because these two cities are sisters, they decided to give each other presents. Dushanbe gave Boulder the gift of a tea house, which is called the Boulder Dushanbe Tea House. It was built by 4 master Tajik craftsmen, and it sits right in the center of Boulder in Boulder Creek Park. And in return, Boulder gave Dushanbe a cyber cafe called the Friendship Center.
This was the mid-90s. Cyber cafes were a real thing.
Very true. So this year, 2022, the United States and Tajikistan are celebrating 30 years of friendly diplomatic relations. That is a very impressive anniversary.
It is.
Justin and I have only had about 10 years of friendly diplomatic relations, and it is not as easy as it looks.
Nope.
So, to celebrate their achievement, the embassy in Dushanbe planned a whole series of cool events to celebrate.
That's when we received a mysterious and random email from Darren Tiz, a public affairs officer with the U.S. State Department, asking if we'd like to tour Tajikistan, perform at public and educational venues, chat with the press, and even film a music video with a Tajik film crew. Now, we are not the most humble people in the world, and it is very easy to manipulate us with flattery. But even we thought this was a little too fancy to be true. We completely thought our identities were about to be stolen.
I mean, it might be worth somebody's while. We do have fairly decent credit.
Yeah, you could probably get a real reasonable used car if you stole our identities.
Yeah, like a early aughts Honda.
Yeah, like a Civic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after some research and a couple of phone calls with Darren, we realized that it was not, in fact, a scam. He had reached out to us because of our connection to Boulder. Next thing we knew, we had tickets to Tajikistan and we flew out of Newark on March 22nd. Now, all flights to Dushanbe land at about 3:30 a.m. and it's a little intimidating to figure out how to get your passport stamped and find your luggage when all the signage is in the Cyrillic alphabet and you're suffering from jet lag. Fortunately for us, this guy was waiting for us right outside the doors, Mohammed Masur Rajabi. Let me tell you, this is the face you want waiting for you after a very long flight to a very foreign country. He swept us up and took us off to the hotel. Side note, the hotel was expecting Justin Bieber to check in, not Justin Badger. They were very disappointed.
Later that day, we had a chance to meet the rest of the team. Shifali Agrawal, Annie Verderosa, and Mahmoud Naimov. We are basically obsessed with each one of these people, and we could spend hours telling you how brilliant and amazing they are. Just know that the way we feel about them is sort of how a 12-year-old girl feels about her super awesome summer camp friend. Then we met Jovid Rachmonov, who was in charge of all the logistics for the music video. He took us to a vintage store to find a couple of traditional Tajik looks for the music video shoot, and it was ridiculously fun. If I go to heaven when I die, it will look like the inside of a Tajik vintage store.
Later on that evening, we went to a super fancy party at Darren's house with a guest list of journalists, social media influencers, and musicians, and we also got a chance to meet Darren's wonderful family. After a fantastic meal, we performed for everyone, and because of the fact that we were both completely jet-lagged, it was not our finest musical hour.
Oh no.
We had planned to play a very famous Tajik song called Chaki Chaki Boran by Daler Nazarov, but because of the brain fog, I started playing it in the wrong key, and Steph did not know what key that was. So when she came in on the accordion,
It was a disaster.
total disaster. Luckily for us, one of the most famous, if not of the most famous singers in all of Tajikistan, Takmina Ramazanova, was in the crowd, and she started singing with us. She helped us finish the song, totally saved us, and the crowd loved it. And at the end of the show, she ended up inviting us to come jam with her and her band at her studio later on in the week.
Yeah, so that was day one. It's gonna be a little bit of a long video, you know. How many days were we in Tajikistan?
I think it was 7 days or 7 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, it could have been 7 minutes.
Yeah, I have no
idea.
sense of time.
Yeah.
On to day two. We drove up to Hisora Fortress, which is 3,000 years old, to shoot the first part of our music video. We changed into our vintage Tajik looks and had one of the most surreal experiences of our lifetimes. So the director told us to walk very slowly down this pathway that looked exactly like Bible times while playing one of our country songs on our instruments. We were surrounded by Tajik tourists and the film crews on either side of us and in front of us, and there's a drone buzzing and shooting from above us. We just kept looking at each other and laughing because it was so absurd. So after we finished shooting, we went to the very famous chicken restaurant. No one knows the real name of this restaurant, but it is very famous and they do serve chicken. Sitting outside eating meat by a river is a very Tajik way to spend the afternoon. Then we raced home and changed our clothes to get ready for that night's performance at Helena Restabar with a local band called the Melody Rangers. These musicians, they were so good. They totally slayed.
Yeah. They played Zombie by the Cranberries and they totally killed it. It made me want to go home, grab my oldest flannel shirt and wrap it around my waist.
Here's a little clip of us playing One Is the Loneliest number with them.
Day 3, we drove up to Bokhtar to one of the American spaces. Now, the American space is an embassy-supported space where students can learn English, take other classes, and rock out at their weekly karaoke club. Before we arrived, we went for lunch. Again, meat-based, outdoors, and by a river. Then we went to the American space, and we were so impressed with the students at the space. Their questions were so deep and heartfelt. It was like going to therapy, but with 40 Tajik teenagers.
Then it was time to go to Takmina Ramazanova's music studio for a party. She welcomed us into her world with so much food and love that our stomachs and our hearts almost exploded from happiness. There was a little bit of a language barrier, but there was so much music and friendship in the room that it totally took care of any social awkwardness. And believe me, Justin and I, we are old pros at bringing the social awkwardness to any situation. So Takmina is the lead singer for a band called Avesto, a wildly popular and extremely talented group that performs all over Central Asia. They played a whole set for us that night. Here's what it was like. Played piano for us, and it turns out that he is a semi-finalist in Central Asia's Got Talent. So then they asked us to get up and play. And after we played a couple songs, someone said, "Don't worry, the best is in the future." But Takmina was so nice, she even let us play a couple songs with her band. It was another wonderful and completely surreal evening. And I think we made some musical friends for life.
On day 4, we were back to shooting the music video, this time at Nurek Lake, a beautiful turquoise lake nestled in the mountains. And to get there, we had to drive on some pretty crazy mountain roads. And on the way, Masroor was telling us all of this Tajik folklore about horses that live underwater, witches that live in nut trees, evil fairies that are gonna get you if you fall asleep by the water. Again, it was another surreal experience. Now, at one point, Annie went for a walk and she started screaming. So the rest of us all started running up the hill to find out if she was doing all right. And Steph started saying, Annie, are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
I couldn't help it. Like once I started, I could not stop Smooth Criminal from just coming out of my mouth.
Annie was, in fact, okay. She had just seen a giant green snake slither past her foot. On the way back, we stopped off at a roadside market to buy some of Tajikistan's famous pomegranates, lemons, and figs. Chef's kiss.
So then we rushed home to change our clothes and we were off to Bahoro with our new BFFs. So Bahoro is this beautiful restaurant that serves delicious food and has a nightly show with traditional Tajik music and dance. Annie was a total rock star. She navigated the restaurant and ordered for the table in Russian like a boss. Here's a little clip of what Bahoro was like. So in between the professional numbers, they open up the dance floor so that everyone can participate. And at one point we had exactly enough Tajik Shahona vodka to make that seem like a very good idea. Darren's wife Rima is a professional dancer, so she is the one that looks amazing in this video. She did her absolute best to help the rest of us not look like complete idiots, but you know, there's only so much she could do. Day 5. We had a big drive down south to Kalobe, which is about 30 miles north of the Afghanistan border, to play another show at an American space. And on the way, we stopped at Hulbuk Fortress for a photo shoot. Now, if you are into LARPing, you need to go to this place. It has sword holders from the 9th century still there, and you can just picture the hundreds and hundreds of years of swashbuckling. And they have turtles.
I like turtles.
It was super cool to hear Shefali talk with the tour guide in her fluent Tajiki. Just as a side note, Shefali grew up in California speaking English, but she conducts all of her embassy press conferences in Tajiki after only about a year of classes.
No big deal. I have 4 years of high school Spanish and I can ask, have you seen my backpack?
The students in Kalobe were amazing. They asked super great questions and they played their own music for us and they gave us hats. We could have spent all day talking to them, but we had to get back on the road because we had a big drive back to Dushanbe. It was all going smoothly until we hit a huge traffic jam up in the mountains. We were stopped for about 2 hours and we kept hearing different stories about what was causing the holdup. Someone told us that a boulder had rolled down the mountain and was blocking the tunnel. Another person told us that a convict had escaped from a nearby women's prison and that the police were checking every single car for her because she was so violent. Another person told us that a semi-truck had rolled over in the middle of the road. At one point, well, it had started getting dark, and a bunch of the drivers got out of their cars to pray by the side of the road. And somehow Mahmoud found cold bottled water and chocolate and a village bathroom because he can do all of the things. And then finally, the traffic started to move. So we were inching up this mountain pass and we are like dangerously close to the other cars, and there are semi-trucks, and surprisingly there are even some people on horses in this traffic jam. And we almost made it to the tunnel that leads to Dushanbe when we got a call from the embassy. And it turned out that our driver, Saeed, had been working for over 10 hours. So protocol said that we needed to turn around and drive him to the closest hotel at the bottom of the mountain. But how were we gonna turn around? The road was like tiny and it was pitch black and it was full of traffic and there were horses. But Mahmoud didn't skip a beat. He jumped out of the van and somehow stopped traffic in both directions and helped Saeed turn around. When he got back into the van, all we could do was just...
All right!
Eventually we found a hotel for our driver and we left the van with him, and then we had to find taxi drivers who were willing to drive us all the way back to Dushanbe with an accordion and a guitar. So it was a long day. But it really wouldn't be an authentic trip to Tajikistan without a little crazy adventure on the road.
Day 6, we had the morning off, which we really needed after our wild ride through the mountains. Later on in the day, we went to another American space in Dushanbe and played another lovely show with a Q&A session with all of the students there. We also had some press interviews, coached and encouraged by Shafali, with Mahmoud translating for us in Russian. Now, during the show, we were told that there was an extremely famous Tajikistan pop star in the audience, Dushanbe Alavatov. We spotted him right away because he was extremely good looking and he was sitting right in the front row.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, we're totally comfortable with performing 5 feet from an international pop star.
We do it all the time.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, on to day 7, our last day. Mahmoud picked us up in the morning for a shopping trip, and our first stop was Zivit, a clothing store owned by Nafisa Imranova, a Tajik fashion designer who we met at the party at Darren's house on the first night. Her clothes were so beautiful, I could have bought the whole store. And I did buy this shirt. But we had other stops to make. Next, we went to Mergon Bazaar, which is a huge, colorful market full of all kinds of different produce. And then we went to a store that sells lapis lazuli directly from the mines in the mountains outside Dushanbe. Just as a little side note, Mahmoud knows every single person who lives in Tajikistan. We think that he is actually the unofficial mayor of Dushanbe. I don't even think I knew what confidence felt like until I walked around town with Mahmoud. Then we went to lunch with the team. You know, actually, Justin, I'm just realizing that I think we really talk about lunch a lot in this video.
We did have a lot of lunch.
We did have a lot of lunch. And we do like lunch.
We like lunch.
We like lunch.
This lunch was
and
good.
We liked this lunch.
Yes.
And after this lunch, we drove to Vachdat, which is a town just outside of Dushanbe, which has a large community of Afghan people. And so we performed at a youth center there for an audience of both Afghan and Tajik students. And right away, the students wanted to ask us a million questions. They were like, how old are you? How many kids do you have? Where do you work? Are you related to Madonna? It was amazing.
They made us feel like super famous celebrities. Like, honestly,
yeah.
I have never taken so many selfies in my life.
Oh no, we got pretty good at our selfie faces by the end of the day. So after the show, the director blessed us by saying, "May your voices never tire and may the stars always shine above you." It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's just how people talk in Tajikistan. It's like a country of poets.
After that, it was back to the hotel so that we could pack up our stuff for a 5:30 a.m. flight with a 36-hour layover in Istanbul. Once again, Masroor was there to help us navigate the Dushanbe airport, and it was smooth sailing. When we got to the check-in counter, the dude who was helping us out said that he recognized us from Instagram. We felt super Tajikistan famous. So our overall takeaways are that Tajikistan is a stunningly gorgeous country, and the culture is so warm and friendly. The food is delicious, especially if you know where to go. Order the plov and the kurutob for sure.
Yes, this might sound a little weird, but the lemons are super good. They're like so sweet you can eat them like an orange.
The traditional music and dance is fantastic, and the handcrafts are beautiful. Make sure to leave a lot of empty room in your suitcases so you can bring back gifts. And we only visited a small portion of the country. When we go back, we want to make sure we go up north to check out Iskandar Lake and Kujand, and we definitely want to visit the Pamir Mountains. We already miss Tajikistan and all of the people that we met out there, and we cannot wait to return.
Thank you for watching our travel video. If you'd like to see even more photos and videos, you can follow us on Instagram because we are way too old to figure out TikTok.
Don't like social
Once
media.
again, my name is Stephanie Dodd and I grew up in Fremont, Nebraska.
My name is Justin Badger, and I grew up in Fremont, California. We are the Fremonts. And don't forget, if you like this video, you can send us a tip on Venmo at the Fremonts, and we will pass the money along to Spirit of America, a nonprofit that is currently raising money to support Ukraine. Here's a link if you want to read more about them. All right, that's it.
That's it.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.